Very good afternoon to all my dearest student friends. Indeed, it gives me a great deal of pleasure in welcoming all the students to this session for the discussion to happen, that is your business law. So today in this session we are going to discuss about the introduction to business law. So whatever we are going to discuss, like the introduction to business law, the meaning attached to business, and as you know, the business is surrounded by the environment, for which it is more important to talk about the business environment. So what is the significance of business law with respect to that, and what is the specific objective of the business law? What is the scope of business law apart from your corporate restructuring which is happening under business law? And what are the sources of business law? And then we'll give a brief summary of today's discussion. So after hearing all about this, a student will be able to explain the concept of business, student able to have a good understanding regarding the objectives, scope, and significance of business law, and that too in the present business environment. And a student will be able to describe the sources through which business law has evolved. So to start with the introduction, so what could be the befitting introduction to business law? If we look at the occupation of business, it plays an extremely important role in the economy of any country you may talk about. So the act of engaging in business, which consequently results in the creation of jobs, consequently results in creation of some kind of opportunities, along with your generation of revenues for the economic sector. And it forms a significant part, I would say, in nation building. So the proliferation of business activities that we are talking of in the contemporary world calls for a mechanism, that kind of mechanism which is going to regulate its conduct, and law facilitates this purpose. So for strong economies, for productive economies, they need to have an adequately enforced system of equally applied law, which has been increasingly felt. So law has become an, I would say, important part of any business activity. A certain framework of law is necessary for maximum incentive to entrepreneurs, maximum incentive to investors, and maximum incentives to the inventors also. So business law has taken an important place, I'm of the opinion, because it secures what it secures the element of trust, it secures the element of certainty, because as you know, trust and certainty that are vital to economic transaction among strangers. So it also includes a study of legal compliances. It may be related to any business activity. So in this unit, there will be a discussion on the concept of business apart from the objectives of business law, because this will help in the understanding of the significance of business law in the present business environment, and which can also elaborate on the various sources of business law. Now, if I talk about the term business law and business laws, which are used, in fact, interchangeably in the text. If I am talking of Business law, it is generic, or you may say it is an umbrella term which provides legal framework, which provides some kind of regulatory framework for doing the business. And business environment that we are more concerned about in any country that is being governed by its business laws, and business laws that are necessary for conducting business. Business laws are necessary for conducting transactions. Business laws are necessary for regulating your business. So, understanding the basics of business law uh, are extremely important for the students of business management stream to get a very firm grasp on the concept uh, and gaining a deeper knowledge of the subject. So that is why the focus on defining the meaning of business, the focus on spelling out the scope and significance of business law, and that in the current economic scenario, apart from to acknowledge the different sources of law which in fact contributed in the evolution of business law. So there are three concepts uh, establish a necessary framework uh, for the most effective functioning of market in the modern nation. One is your law, another is your rule of law, and another is your property. So the forces, in fact, that hold societies together range from starting from the custom and religion and ending with law and having some kind of economic ties. So in the modern nation, however, the most significant of the social forces is law, because law can glue together diverse peoples of different backgrounds into very large organized groups. Law is known by everyone as being something intended to tell the members of the society what they can do and what they cannot do. Now, coming to the law, it is necessary to have preliminary discussion on what is law before students are introduced to business law. So, the term law has been defined in many ways because it is not that easy to give a precise definition of law. It has been defined as rules of human action. So, a simple definition of law provides that law is a formal social force, and that formal social force is made up of rules, and those rules which are laid down by the state, and they are all backed by enforcement. Why we emphasize more on enforcement? Because you might be having rules, but if it is not applied, so the purpose for which it has all been designed is meaningless, and the efforts made will go waste. Now, coming to the rule of law, under the rule of law, all laws are made generally, and these are all equally applicable. They apply to all members of the society, they apply to various groups in the same way. So, in the word of Secretary General of United Nations, uh, without confidence, without confidence based on the rule of law, without trust, or without your transparency, there could be no well functioning markets. So, without the rule of law, major economic institutions such as corporations, banks, your trade unions would not function. and the government's many involvements in the economy mechanism, government's many involvement in the regulatory mechanisms, or government involvement in your tax systems, government involvement in your custom structure, government involvement in your monetary policy, like that, would be unfair, would be inefficient, opaque. So now coming to the third term, that is your property. When we are using the term property, it has got two meanings. It has got two meanings. Something that is owned and something over which you have the ownership. So it is through the law of property that either individuals or the business organizations can possess, can use, can transfer their private resources. So property is a legal fence that keeps others out without your permission. So there is exclusionary right of property, and which provides some kind of basis for the private market. It provides some kind of basis for the modern business. So your property has been thought of as the central concept underlying Western legal systems, because we have got contract law. Contract law enables an owner to exchange resources, and when it is a question of exchanging resources at a future date, and that is why we have also other laws like criminal laws, because criminal law punishes those who harm an owner's resources, and that in a particular way. And the law business organizations, what they do, they identify how individuals can own, how individuals can use private resources, and that too in groups. So when we are making discussion about all these things, we have to give befitting meaning to the business. So now coming to the meaning of business, as you know, business can be defined as an enterprise. Business can be defined as an organization also involved in an industrial activity, involved in some kind of mercantile activity, involved in some kind of commercial activity. So always we talk about business entity, and business entity may be brought forth for a profit purpose, or it can also serve non-profit purposes, supporting a charitable or supporting some kind of social cause. So a business may also be referred to the activities undertaken by an individual or activities undertaken by a group of individuals, and those group of individuals who are engaged in the sale of goods, and there is provision of services with a profit center. So the term business may be understood as the organized efforts of the enterprise to supply consumers with goods, to supply consumers with services, so that we can earn profit in the process. So business, when we talk about it, is a broad term, and being a broad term, it includes different activities, varied activities, as your production, your promotion, your, you can say, wholesaling, your retailing, there is distribution, there is transportation, there is facilities like warehousing. You need to have money. So bankers, financial institutions are there for financing. There is insurance component. You provide consultancy, all those things. So business is a form of activity pursued, and it is primarily with the object of earning profit. And when it is a question of object of earning profit for the benefit of those on those behalf the business activity is undertaken, on whose behalf business activity is conducted. So the business that we are talking of, it will vary in size as measured by the number of employees, or as measured by the sales volume, whatever you may take. But the purpose of size of business. But all businesses, they share one common purpose, that is to earn profit. Whether they utter, whether they don't utter, but that is very much something which is inbuilt. So the purpose of business and that goes beyond earning profits, that are important um, institution in society for the maybe for the supply of goods, supply of services, creating jobs, opportunities, or offering better quality of life altogether. All those things will contribute to the economic growth of the country. So, business law, also commonly known as commercial law, also commonly known as mercantile law. So, this mercantile law is one branch of law that conducts the relationship between the enterprises or the companies and the individuals, those who are very much engaged in commercial matters. So that is why this section, the law governs issues. And what are those issues? Issues in relation to the legal rights, issues in with regard to have some kind of linkage uh, with regard to commercial matters. So that is why not only we are more concerned about the legal rights, we are also concerned about the duties, the liabilities of the entities engaged in the business transaction. So business law has attained, I would say, significant position in the current era, and due to the formidable position held by the business enterprises or the business corporations, maybe in contributing to the economy or by the supply of abundant job positions and thereby boosting your employment sectors and thereby contributing to the generation of revenues. So that is why business law consists of enforceable rules of conduct, that rules of conduct that is going to govern um, your commercial relationship. So in other words, if you try to put it, you have buyers, you have sellers, they interact, and in a market uh, exchange, you try to see within the rules what is permissible, that indicate the boundaries of the legal business behavior. And we have constitutions, we have legislatures, we have regulatory bodies, we have courts. All of them, they spelled out what market participants may or may not be legally do. So understanding the business law is necessary for your future business people. Business is simply is no market transaction that occurs and outside the legal guidelines. Even though you go for any kind of contract or the all contracts or your employment decisions or the payments to a supplier, they're all limited, they're all protected by your business law. Each of the six functional areas of business. To start with, your management, one area of business, production is another area of business. Your taking goods from one place to another, the finished product as well as the raw material, the transportation, finally that is to be sold in the market, your marketing efforts. And apart from that also, there is research and development, which will provide some kind of input for the betterment of tomorrow. And apart from that also, your accounting, finance, your human resource management, because no organization can run without people being hired. They all sit on the foundation of business law. The business law is a body of legal rules regulating business activities, and they can be defined as the portion of the, you can say, legal statements or the legal systems. And uh, when we are talking of business law, is a body of legal rules regulating business activities. Obviously, business law is that portion of the legal system which guarantees an orderly conduct of business affairs, and there will be some kind of settlement of legitimate disputes, and that too in a just manner. So you try to establish a set of rules and you prescribe those rules and meant for the conduct that enables us to avoid any kind of misunderstanding or causing some kind of damage or injury in our business relationship. Now, coming to the business environment, because business environment consists of all those factors or all those forces which shape the conduct of business. Such factors may be categorized as your internal as well as the external factors, because internal factors include factors within the control of any business. But when you are talking of external factors on the other hand, they all include factors that are or that will lie beyond the power and beyond the control of any business. So your both internal as well as external factors, they keep on changing and they are dynamic in nature. So you have external factors, they also include laws, they also include regulations and discipline. That means the policies that we are more concerned about to maintain discipline that affect the conduct of business. So in the business environment, it has to be dynamic, it is more complex, it is uncertain, and it is multifaceted apart from far-reaching impact on the hospital itself, and it is very much relative. So now coming to the significance of business law. Business law, as I told you a little while ago, is that branch of legal system which promotes an orderly treatment of business affairs, which in fact facilitates the regulation of commercial activities. And all those things must happen in accordance with your established, you can say, practices of law, which provides for settlement, the settlement of your disputes that to in an amicable manner. Obviously, if we undertake in a more amicable manner, so it will be free from disturbances. It constitutes that part of the legal system, which is most, I would say, fundamental or national wealth creation. So it also specifies another aspect that the rules and the conduct of the business, in fact, that needs to be adhered to. And for the creation of successful, I would say, uh, person, the body, the organizations. So all those things in accordance with the established practices of law, which provides for the settlement of disputes, and those settlement of disputes must be undertaken in an amicable manner. And it constitutes that part of the legal system which is more fundamental to our national wealth creation. And it also specifies the rules and the conduct that needs to be adhered to. Because if we look back for the creation of successful businesses, you can say business relationships among the government, obviously business entities and your public, over which we are more concerned that business enterprise, we have all those things because business law also helps aids in establishing the right kind of environment, right kind of environment which is needed, and that is also for making it responsible, uh, making the business responsible for making peaceful business, I would say, dealings, and not just among the different enterprises, but also for safeguarding the rights. And when we are trying to safeguard the rights of the employees, obviously the business law also requires understanding and the firm grounding of multiple substantive functioning, substantive, I would say, areas of law. So business law has gained significance due to the changing business environment. And business environment is not static, rather dynamic in nature. And there is a requirement, I would say, of having adequate laws in place. And these requirements are gaining importance in place of governance of the business organizations, in terms of functioning of the business organization in the society. Now, coming to the objectives of business law, we enter into contracts every day. Some of these contracts are made consciously. For example, for the purchase of any goods. For example, for the sale of any goods. Your purchase of a share of a company, purchase of a plot of land. Suppose you are entering into contracts. Entering into contracts determines the legal rights of each party. Each party giving rise to some kind of legal obligations as well. So people who are engaged in business activities, such as business owners, what they do, they enter into the contract on a daily basis to further the business transactions, all the activities, all the business activities include your variety of uh, transactions. And when you go for variety of transactions, that will give rise to contract on a daily basis. And some of these contracts are as simple as purchasing goods from a shop and thereby giving rise to some kind of and legal obligations, right and legal obligations. So if you look at the business law, it serves a variety of purposes. So if I jot down, the list is quite exhaustive. So the first purpose, first objective of the business law is a comprehensive set of standards established universally. Business law, business laws are comprehensive. They are very much uniform set of standards that are applicable to all business entities, and uniformity in laws we have seen it helps in maintaining smooth relation between the business and its various stakeholders, and including your consumers, your suppliers, etc. So it provides some kind of environment where you find that the business can function smoothly, you find that the business can function efficiently. At the same time, at the same rule, I would say that shall be applicable to the, and when we are talking of all these things, it provides the environment where the business can function smoothly, where the business can function efficiently, as the same rule shall be applicable to all the business organizations falling in a particular category. And however, there can be different compliances, no doubt about it, for different kinds of business organizations, depending upon the size of the business, depending upon the nature of business activity, or depending upon certain thresholds, I would say the limits being prescribed. It also helps in identifying and establishing the rights and liabilities of the various parties interacting with each other. So it provides some kind of framework for reducing the harm caused to either party due to fraudulent activities or activities which happen to be unethical. So being business law, so it provides for steps that need to be followed while conducting due diligence before engaging with a particular company. Another objective of the business law is promoting industrial growth. Business laws not only provide different provisions for compliance for the business activities, but also facilitate industrial growth by protecting rights of businesses, by promoting the rights of the businesses. So adherence to the rule being prescribed by the range of laws falling under the domain of your business facilities, the formation or the promotion, or you may talk about the industrialization or the facilities licensing, or doing some kind of small business financial inclusions which promote economic growth. Another objective of this session, that laying down the procedure for the establishment of business. The laws dealing with business provide the necessary framework, and those necessary framework which are required for the commencement of a business operations, along with, no doubt about it, along with the building of a strong foundation for the business entity which to thrive in the market. And in this case, the formal process provided under the law also facilitates successful conduct. And when it facilitates successful conduct, obviously throughout the lifestyle of the business. For instance, Companies Act 1956 through Amendment, Companies Act 2013. So it lays down the steps involved in the incorporation of a company and providing provisions related to the articles of association and the memorandum of association and the prospectus, which are the three essential documents needed for any kind of public company. And apart from that, the objective of the business law is the enforcement of rights. As you know, business laws provide some kind of provisions, and those provisions for judicially enforcing the rights of all the parties who are involved in a business transaction. So, thus, businesses can approach the court. Why do they approach the court? To enforce the claims against the debtors. They have a right to a patent. They have a right to take copyright. They have a right to hold property with, etc. So businesses also have a right to defend themselves. In case of actions, those are filed by the central bodies, those are filed by the state bodies, or those are filed by the local bodies. Businesses have been given the power of initiating legal action in case of any kind of legal compliance which are breached by any outside parties, or also allowed to defend themselves against the litigation filed by the government or for its various stakeholders. So you have various provisions aiding in carrying out the enforcement actions which have been provided in statutes for effective regulation of the business practices. Apart from that, also another objective of the business law which is striking to my mind, that it contributes to the building of healthy business relationship, which is very much required. As you know, laws dealing with business matters are extremely significant in the establishment of a secure and effective business relationship among the concerned entities, as the formation of strong business ties, and that is an absolute and must be building a very strong economy of a country. For instance, you are talking of Partnership Act. So if you go through Partnership Act, it lists out the rights, the duties, rights of the partners, the duties of the partners, obligations of the partners in a firm for carrying out a successful venture. So business law also plays an extremely important role in facilitating, especially mergers, acquisition, which is taking place between enterprises. There are enterprises which are looking for collaboration. There are enterprises which are looking for expansion of their business. Apart from that, also you have cross-border merger and acquisition transactions. They also contribute immensely to the economy of a country by playing a very significant role in increasing the revenue generated through the means of your foreign direct investment. And if you have cross-border merger and acquisitions, they occur between companies, and those companies which are situated into different jurisdictions. So if the resulting company is an Indian company, obviously it qualifies as an inbound merger, and if the resulting company is a foreign company, it is cherished as an outbound merger. Apart from that, another objective of the business law is your reduced possibilities of fraud. Because if you have a robust and very effective business law framework, is not it? It helps in reducing the possibility of fraud, as the parties entering into contracts or parties dealing with each other, they are all aware of their rights, they are all aware of their liabilities, and which would prevent them from, which would prevent them in falling prey to the illegal or the fraudulent activities by the other party. So the laws associated with your business law also provides for a highly effective enforcement mechanisms which are further lined with your stringent measures that could minimize even the possibility of perpetuating fraud. Another purpose of your business laws is it helps in maintaining equilibrium, which is very, very important. Business laws help in bringing about uniformity, bringing about maintaining equilibrium, as there are set of rules which have to be followed by each entity. So there are different forms of business organizations which are regulated by different laws, and this helps in the ease of dealing. This helps in the ease of conducting businesses, as the same standards are very much followed throughout the country. As a result of which, it helps in making the business transaction easier, as a result of which, it helps in making the business transaction smoother across the country. And today in 2023, another purpose of the business law is your ethical conduct. Because business laws also help in improving the conduct of the business. As you know, laws have to be followed in letter and spirit. So when laws are to be followed in letter and spirit, so therefore, uh, every business organizations, I would say, have a responsibility of maintaining ethical conduct while functioning in the society. As businesses survive, and that too in the society, businesses use its resources available in the society. So there is a responsibility on the part of the businesses to give back by dealing ethically. And when I say by dealing ethically, with all its stakeholders. And apart from that, also another objective of the business law is your social responsibility. Because business laws also lay down the criteria, and the criteria for business is to function in a society as the business is utilizing the resources of the society. So there itself arises the responsibility of the business to give back to the various stakeholders. So this enables social justice. This enables social responsibilities, maybe in the form of good employment practices, maybe in the form of you follow non-discrimination, maybe in the form of your sustainable utilization of resources, maybe in the form of prevention of environmental damages. So it prohibits businesses from entering into practices and that are harmful to the society at large. And also, it is appropriate to mention over here that the purpose of the business law is to lay down law in accordance with the evolving standards, because the business environment that we look at is ever changing. The business environment that we look at is dynamic in nature. So the laws have to be enacted, and when it has to be enacted, taking into account the economic environment, taking into account the business environment of the country. So these laws not only provide uniformity in business operations, these laws, but also provide clarity to unforeseen situations. Because over a period of time, we have also legislative changes occurrence of unforeseen situations. For example, uh, we have Indian Competition Act, which handles the um, antitrust issues in the country, regulates it. So we have Competition Act 2002 that is very much concerned with keeping a check, and when it is concerned with keeping a check on the prevailing anti-competitive acts in the relevant market being governed. So now, coming to the scope of business law, for the better understanding of your business laws and the scenario giving rise to their emergence, I am of the opinion that it is very much imperative, in fact, to understand the frame of societal reference which gave birth to this branch of law. So any study of business law must necessarily provide major thrust to the rules framed in relation to the business law, because society has imposed constructive notice of that law. So understanding the background sheds light on the reason behind the emergence or reasons behind its functioning of a particular law, shall help in making policies, and it might prove beneficial in the long run. So the scope of business law is very, very vast. So it takes into its ambit the laws related to all the activities providing indispensable for the successful conduct of the business. The scope of the business law is not restricted to the laws related to companies, but it also provides laws for business activities which are conducted by the different forms of the business organizations. So there are laws to deal with contracts, there are laws to deal with property, there are laws to deal with agency, there are even laws to deal with negotiable instrument, there are laws to deal with sale of goods, there are laws to deal with bailments, similarly guarantees, intellectual property, so on so forth. So in relation to companies, there is multitude of laws, such as you have corporate laws, you have securities laws, you have competition laws, you have foreign exchange laws, tax laws. So right from the incorporation of the business entity till it attains finality, so we have numerous laws which are provided for every significant act that may be resorted by a business entity throughout its life. So there are a range of laws that have been enacted over a period of time for the proper commencement of the business activities, for the required conduct, and during its life. And when you are talking of this, obviously, life cycle, with finally laws laying down the procedures, directing the regulations, or finally there will be culmination of the business activity. And business law also helps in raising questions against governmental regulations in case it results in some kind of violation of legitimate business practices. So we have legal consequences altogether, and the legal consequences of the multifarious business transactions, they also play a significant role for the accountant of the company, maybe in the auditing the company's books in the course of preparing required financial statements. So business laws also subserve the interest of society at large. So laws dealing with insurance, laws dealing with your environmental protections, laws dealing with your taxation, everything. They are extremely beneficial for the promotion of rights. They are extremely beneficial for the promotion of interest of the general public. So we have antitrust law, which also forms some kind of important part of the business law, as a result of which you keep a check on market concentration, your monopolistic, oligopolistic companies, along with the dominance being exerted by these companies in the market. Now, coming to the corporate restructuring under the business law, obviously the corporate restructuring also forms the essential part of the business development. And corporate restructuring is a process whereby a firm that we are more concerned about looks to enhance its shareholders' value. So it encompasses a broad range of transactions within its ambit, including within its purview, ranging as a result of it, there will be change in the capital structure through the infusion of high level of debts to selling of your company or selling of business lines or making acquisition by taking over corporations and making internal changes in the organizations of the firm. So it is an absolute necessity for a company's basic survival. So that is why there are numerous ways by which a company may look to your restructuring its business, either through merger, through amalgamation, through merger, through absorption, merger through consolidation, or merger through acquisition. There can be takeover, there can be divestiture, there can be demerger, there can be, you can say, joint ventures, everything. So one recent example of a company, and in this case, engaging in restructuring in the form of your acquisition as a means to expand, could be the case of EdTech Jet, or you can talk about Byju's, which is looking to achieve success in K-12. So now coming to, because most of the current dialogue about the corporate governance can also be attributed to discussing the corporation's existence or those interests the corporate exists and ultimately serves. So most commonly, the obvious answer is maximization of wealth. Whose wealth? Wealth for the shareholders of a company. So the principle of shareholder wealth focuses on the aspect of cash flows and may not be immediate profit generating, more of a future outcome. So a company always aims at amplifying the residual profits that remain after all the incidental costs are reduced. So profit generation may not be the only aim, I would say, of a company, but it may prove to be a significant reason, because from a shareholder's perspective, in a competitive market, that in a flourishing market, anything a company does to enhance share prices, that is a plus for the company. Moreover, whenever a shareholder does any activities like selling their share or buying their share or retaining their share, it adds to their value. So now coming to the sources of business law, there are many sources which the business law evolves. To start with, the Constitution, the text of the Constitution, along with the interpretation made by the Supreme Court from time to time, is considered as the supreme law of the land, and the all law and authority flowing from the traceable to the Constitution are recognized as lawful power. So we have Indian Constitution, and Indian Constitution establishes the fundamental principles. They establish the fundamental rules by which individual states are very much governed. The term constitutional law always refers to the general limits, always refers to the power of the central government, the state government, as stated in the written constitution. So we have Indian Constitution, that is the supreme law of the land, and all the laws of the country have their foundation in the constitutions. And apart from that, also we have statutes. The statutes can be defined as the act of legislatures in the written form. So legislative actions called statutes, they are another important source of law, and the act of creating law, also known as legislating, cannot be solely be performed by the parliament due to enormous number of legislations required to run a state. So the act of legislation can be delegated to the subordinate authorities, such as we have executive bodies, individuals, by providing necessary guidelines, providing some kind of policies, rules which must be resorted to while laying down the law. So this area of legislation is also known as delegated or subordinate legislation. So the legislature has come up with various laws to counter the issues which are cropping up in the business administration in our country. And apart from that, also the sources of law, another source is your cases, because case laws, they play an important role in shaping the uh, law, and not only shaping the law but also bringing out its relevance as per the prevailing condition in the society. So the interpretation offered by the judges in the form of ratio decidendi aids in clarifying the nuances of the law. So case laws, your constitutions, your legislatures, administrative bodies, what they do, they encourage certain behavior and they also prevent other actions. But the boundaries of these laws are always seldom self-explanatory. So consequently, the law must be interpreted. And when we are talking of the case law, it is a collection of legal interpretation made by judges. Similarly, you have also the customs. This is also one of the most important sources of law. It is always possible to detect two basic elements in the makeup of the custom. One is material facts. When I say material facts, which is the actual behavior of states founded upon the performance of the state activities and practices. Another is your psychological element, which is the belief by the state that behaved in a certain way, that it was a legal obligation to act that way. Apart from that, also you have treaties, another source of law, because treaties are the source of international business law, no doubt about it, because they are one of the sources that have been mentioned under Article 38. Apart from that, also we have different government policies, because one has to understand the focus of any government through its policies. For example, when we focus to promote ease of doing business, obviously the government accordingly brought new legislations. Government regulated in a manner to remove bottlenecks which had increased time consumed in contracts enforcement. Similarly, when we talk about economic reforms undertaken, so you have provisions of easy financing for medium, medium size, small size enterprises, women entrepreneurs, bringing new policies for them, going for e-commerce policy. These are some of the examples of government interventions for regulating the business through policies, regulating the business through laws which are made according to the policies. So the business law, that is why we always talk about the business law, is that branch of law, is that branch of the legal system which promotes an orderly treatment of the business affairs. Not only that, it facilitates the regulation of commercial activities in accordance with established practices of law, and it also provides for the settlement of the disputes. And when it is a question of settlement of disputes, it must be undertaken in an amicable manner. So with this, we come to an end of today's discussion. Thank you very much. Have a nice time. Good day.